farming anyway is a way of life. It's not a job, it's a way of life. If you're going to be a farmer, that's how you have to look at it. And organics, definitely, you have to, from my personal point of view, is you have to work with nature.
Of course, within organic farming, there's a whole spectrum. You're getting some organic farmers who just see that not using chemicals is the answer, but they're still using the industrial model of inputs and outputs in their head. And then you get fertility, that you have to start seeing the farm as a whole, and there has to be a balance there. And that is one of the main principles of a biodynamic farm, that behind this concept you have that it has to be not bringing in inputs from outside, that you see the whole farm is a kind of whole which has to be in balance, that you have to be able to produce all the feed for your animals off that farm, that they in turn will, if you have the right balance of animals, will produce enough manures of different sorts to maintain and increase the fertility on the farm.
And the important in biodynamics is to have the farm as an organism, so the farm is able to produce all its own manure and able to produce its own fertility.
What people do here, which is much more efficient, of course, is then to use the clover to feed it to your ruminants, to your cattle, to your sheep, to your cows. And they in return give you manure.
It's very important that we all try and go as organic as possible for the health of everyone, and I think to try and reduce the amount of chemicals that we're using, because firstly, if the food is not organic, you're eating a lot of chemicals anyway, and then there's lots of chemicals used to grow that food. So if you can go organic, then it would reduce the damage to the environment that these chemicals and GMO crops cause.
And then on top of that, in biodynamic farming, there is the concept of the preparations, which are, I think, enhancing the manure to a way that the manure is able to really support the plant life, for it to support the animals and the people that live on the farm and feed off the farm. So again, you're creating this cycle of health and sustainability by having the cows eating grass that is suitable for them, that is healthy. And then this manure also goes into the vegetable garden. This manure also goes into producing grain and cereals, which then is fed the people through the farm shop.
If you grow up with organic food, it's a very whole environment that you grow up in, so everything is affecting that food. And I think that makes you very aware of your environment and what you're bringing in and what you're putting out. So I think to learn to grow organically is vital for how you treat the earth, actually. And I think if you experience the goodness that organics brings into your food, into your environment, then you start to see what else needs to be done around you. So I think it opens your eyes.
Our cows are all kept biodynamically, which means that they're fed with hay and silage from our own farm. All of their food comes from our own farm, and it's all grown organically, and we use biodynamic preparations. The cows have their horns, which we feel is very important for their digestive systems, which is also reflected in the milk, and the milk is more nutritious. And they get to be outside all through the year, and in the summer months, spring, summer, autumn, they're out on grass, eating grass, which is the most natural way for a cow. And you can really taste in the milk that it is sort of fresher, more nutritious than a lot of milk which is blended from many different farms and which isn't organic.
I think the future is definitely for people to see not just organic or production, but small scale production, which is much more manageable for people and is able to employ more people and empower more people as to where their food comes from, and to have healthy food and have a stronger connection with their food. Because with industrial farming, we have lost connection with the source of our food and the quality of our food. One person can go to the store and buy pepper, doesn't matter what time of the year. We are able to import fruit and vegetables from all over the world, and we don't think about where our food comes from and how much effort goes into it. But in this farm here, it's a small farm, 200-acre farm. The people who are fed from this farm, the people who are in touch with this farm, get much more in touch with their food.
I eat mainly vegetarian, some fish, and I tend to buy from local farmers markets only. I hardly ever enter a supermarket anymore and eat mainly organic food.
Mainly vegetarian. I was vegetarian completely it was only 2 years. But I will eat the meat from this farm or from our sister farm, Tablehurst, because it's biodynamic. I know the people looking after the animals, and I know what food they're eating and their environment that they've grown up in. So as long as I know that, I'm happy to eat the meat.
I became vegetarian when I was 6, so I haven't eaten meat in a long time, and I think probably if I wasn't already vegetarian, then I would probably eat organic and biodynamic meat, but I don't really have any need for meat now, so I stay vegetarian.
I was vegetarian as a child, and the whole family was vegetarian, but I only eat organic meat really, or biodynamic.
And we eat vegetarian food and organic as well.
There are methods which are available which can show that we're not just talking about minerals and pure substance, but there are forces in our food and working in nature. And one of those methods was developed by Pfeiffer when he developed the chromatography, and Dr. Kalisko as well with the crystallization method. And by using that method, you can see other than just the chemical constituents of something, but it actually shows completely different picture depending on how alive or dead it is, if there are forces in that or not. And these pictures are quite objective, and it's absolutely clear. You can take a dead soil and take a sample from that, and one which has been enlivened of that same soil with compost and biodynamic methods, and it creates a completely different picture.
Each farm is a small community of friends and not only colleagues.
For being interested in organic agriculture, and what the farm does here is to do with the fact that you can involve the community in it, and also when you work with biodynamic agriculture or organic agriculture, you're actually producing food that people can trust.
So after I became more interested in organic food and growing my own food and cooking my own food, I got also interested in what isn't organic or the conventional and the use of GMOs. And me personally, I'm completely against using GMOs when you're cooking or eating or anywhere, because they unfortunately are everywhere. The plant is genetically modified. It's missing a vital part of the life of the plant. And when you consume that, you're also missing that vital part of life.
Yeah, I personally don't believe in GMOs because of the health benefits of, well, for people and for the planet as a whole. I don't think the gene splicing is an advantage. I haven't seen proof of it getting better yields. The only potential downsides, I think, and which is why I avoid it, is that it'll have an effect on us.
GMO food, I think, is a limiting food source. It limits your diet, it limits the variety you can eat, and it makes you very dependent on the seed companies that produce this GMO seed. You can't save the seed, you can't grow next year from the same seed, so for me that raises questions about how good it is for you if it's not fertile enough to produce its own seed that is viable, then to eat food like that. I don't know how good that is for your body.
It's got a terminator gene in it, which means that the the plant is not able to produce seeds for the next generation, how does that affect? So on a material level, on a nutrient level, maybe there is nothing there. It's the same as organic or biodynamic soya. But for me, from a quality point of view, I ask the question, how does it affect my own fertility if I'm eating food that is not able to carry its offspring, is not able to produce the next generation? Is not just only not able to, it's got a gene that is a terminator, that kills it.
The risk of cross-contamination, not only from one plant to the other, but from one plant to bacteria, to other organisms, and so on and so on. It's you don't know what you're unleashing. You have no idea. But one thing is absolutely sure: whatever you do, it's completely irreversible. You will never be able to stop it again. Once it's out there, it will be out there. If it's working out in a bad way, there's no way to reverse this process.
I'm very suspicious of GMOs. I have to say I always try to buy from local farms when I don't get my food from my own farm. And then I know I can trust the food. I know that I can talk to the farmers and see how it was made, and understand the attitude of the people who made it. So that's really important to me. GMOs have clearly, historically they've been associated with using pesticides. They've been associated with infertility of seeds and things like that, and exploitation of farmers. So personally I steer clear of them as much as I can, but also in the UK, as well as in a lot of countries, sometimes unless you are buying organic, it's impossible to know because they don't label that something has got GMOs in it. So that makes it very hard to always be certain.
And the last thing is that it, now time and time again, it proves that GMO doesn't work. Again, it's the question of sustainability. The fact that I sowed maybe a field of GMO corn and it's grown a good crop one year, it doesn't mean that it will grow food every year. A lot of GMO crops have proved to fail. They don't have higher yields, but they still need to have pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides. And the result of it is then you get resistant strains like the super weeds, and this just becomes it just becomes an accelerating process. So if you get super weeds, then you need to use more poisons, and then the weeds get stronger and stronger, and you're not really solving the problem. The problem is not really solved. While if you create a balanced ecological system and acknowledge the fact that there will be weeds, that there will be pests, that there will be diseases, but to keep it in a balanced way, I think it's much more healthier.
The slightest interest in going back to growing your own food or buying from local growers, you should try and do it, because to me that is the future, basically. When you live in a city and you live just with technology all around you, where life is so fast-paced, you actually gradually completely lose your identity, and you completely lose a sense of what life really is about. So for me, the journey of returning back to nature and to working with the soil and with plants every day has just been an amazing journey. Like, I have had so many moments in the last year or a year and a half where I felt so content and so connected, and where I've really been able to feel joy, just being with color, with sounds of nature. There's so much more than just nutrition that you get from living on the land and working with the land every day. So if you have a chance, then I would say try and leave that bubble where you're completely blinded and numbed by technology, and just try and go back to nature wherever you can find it, really.
I think it's the only way forward. Small scale growing. A lot of small farms that are able to grow and specialize in certain things, but grow also a wide variety of fruit and vegetables. It's also fun, It is. I wouldn't choose it if it wasn't.
I really enjoy farming life. It's very seasonal, it's very rhythmic. You always have the most amazing food right at your fingertips. So I would definitely recommend everyone get into farming, but it is really hard work. And obviously if you're doing farming, then do organic farming because it's so much more rewarding.
So if you are a young person living in a city and you have a desire to find out what it's all about, you just need to go onto websites like the WOOF websites or HelpX, or there are so many resources on the internet now that can allow you to go and stay on organic farms in your own country even. You don't have to travel around the world, but that you can go and stay at places like that and get an experience volunteering for a few months or even for a few weeks. That would be a great thing to do. Or alternatively, try and find in your own city if there are allotments available, community projects, community allotments. Like here in the UK we have quite a lot of those projects, and even while I was still working in an office I used to go and volunteer on Sunday afternoons. Try and find some of these projects and allow these projects to help you spark something for you to change your lifestyle and really understand what organics is about, just by eating organically and working with the land.